Sebastian Vettel recently called Max Verstappen's improvement scary. On the surface, it sounds like a simple compliment from one champion to another. But when you dig into the data, you discover something far more fascinating. This isn't just praise. It's a carefully constructed narrative that reveals regret, rivalry, and the changing of the guard at Red Bull Racing. The surface story. Let's start with what Vettel actually said. On Formula One's Beyond the Grid podcast, the four-time world champion described how Verstappen keeps improving despite already being recognized as excellent. He praised Max's winning mentality, his ability to compartmentalize pressure, and his relentless work ethic behind the scenes. Vettel emphasized that in crucial moments, Verstappen maintains composure, rarely makes mistakes, and delivers when it matters most. Sounds wholesome, right? A retired legend tipping his cap to the new generation. But the numbers tell a very different story. The legacy battle. Here's what the data reveals. Between 2010 and 2013, Sebastian Vettel dominated Formula One. 4 consecutive world championships, 38 wins for Red Bull. He set records that seemed untouchable, including 9 consecutive victories in 2013. At just 23 years old, he became the youngest world champion in history. Fast forward to today, Max Verstappen has already shattered most of those records. 69 career wins compared to Vettel's 53. In 2023, Verstappen won 19 races in a single season, breaking Vettel's consecutive wins record with 10 straight victories. He scored 575 points that year and achieved a staggering 92.74% of available points, the highest dominance rate in Formula One history. But here's the kicker. Verstappen just won his 4th championship in 2024 with a car that finished 3rd in the Constructors' Championship. 3rd, Vettel never had to do that. He always had the best car. Verstappen won the title in a weaker machine, the first driver to accomplish this feat since Nelson Piquet in 1983. The 2014 wound. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room. The year 2014. The year Daniel Ricciardo destroyed Sebastian Vettel. And I mean destroyed. Ricciardo scored 238 points to Vettel's 167. That's a 71-point margin. 3 wins to 0, 3rd place in the championship versus 5th. This was Vettel's first season with hybrid power units, and theories emerged that he either couldn't adapt or deliberately underperformed to trigger his Red Bull exit clause. Martin Brundle suggested Vettel hated the hybrid cars and wanted out. Red Bull's chief engineer believed Vettel simply lost motivation after years of winning. Compare that to Verstappen's teammate record. He has demolished every single teammate he's ever faced. Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, none of them got close. In 2024, Verstappen scored 437 points while Perez managed just 152. That's 74% of Red Bull's total points coming from one driver. Eddie Irvine called Verstappen by far the most dominant team leader on the grid. When Vettel praises Verstappen's mentality and consistency, he's highlighting the very areas where he himself faltered. The Ferrari regret. In October 2014, Vettel announced he was leaving Red Bull for Ferrari. The dream move. Following in his idol Michael Schumacher's footsteps. The chance to bring Ferrari back to glory just as Schumacher had done in the early 2000s. It didn't work out. 6 years at Ferrari, 0 championships. He came close in 2017 and 2018, leading the championship at the summer break both years, but he faded. He made mistakes. The dream died. Vettel later admitted the only thing he regretted was how things ended at Red Bull, not the Ferrari move itself. But actions speak louder than words. While Vettel chased a legacy at Ferrari and came up empty, Verstappen stayed loyal to Red Bull and built a dynasty. 4 championships and counting. By emphasizing how Verstappen stayed and succeeded, Vettel is implicitly acknowledging his own miscalculation. The advisor angle. Here's where it gets really interesting. Right now, Sebastian Vettel is in talks with Red Bull about potentially replacing Helmut Marko as the team's advisor. Marko himself called Vettel his ideal successor and said he'd master the role within 2 races. Verstappen publicly stated he'd welcome Vettel back, saying there should always be a spot for someone who achieved so much with Red Bull. Vettel confirmed these discussions are happening, though not yet intensive or in-depth. So why is he publicly praising Verstappen right now? Because he's building bridges. He's showing the current Red Bull star that he's supportive, not threatening. He's positioning himself as someone who respects the hierarchy and understands that this is Verstappen's team now. This isn't just friendly commentary from a retired champion. This is strategic career positioning. The chaos at Red Bull. And Red Bull desperately needs stability right now. In February 2024, Christian Horner faced an investigation for allegations of inappropriate behavior. He was cleared, but the damage was done. Anonymous leaks, internal chaos, and a mass exodus followed. Adrian Newey, the legendary designer, announced his departure in May and joined Aston Martin. The sporting director left, the strategy chief left, key personnel scattered. And then, in July 2025, after 20 years as team principal, Christian Horner was sacked with an £80 million settlement. The timing of Vettel's comments and his discussions about a potential Red Bull role? Not coincidental. He's positioning himself as a stabilizing force during organizational turmoil. Meanwhile, despite all this chaos, Verstappen delivered. He scored points when the car was struggling. He won from 17th on the grid in Brazil, gaining 16 positions in wet conditions. Christian Horner praised the massive effort Verstappen put in behind the scenes with engineers, designers, and on the simulator. The generational shift. Here's what makes Verstappen truly different, according to technical analysts. He drives primarily on intuition, creating what one expert called a perfect platform for a trillionth of a second. A minuscule flat area between direction changes that gives him an edge no teammate can replicate. Jenson Button said in 2020 that there hasn't been a driver who's annihilated his teammates like Verstappen in a very long time. Helmut Marko, who has overseen both champions, stated that Vettel and Verstappen are completely different characters. When Vettel left, Red Bull wasn't looking for a new Vettel, they were looking for a new champion. And they found one who's more obsessed, more committed, and frankly, more dominant than Vettel ever was. At 27 years old, Verstappen has already equaled Vettel's 4 championships. He achieved them in 1,078 days from his first to 4th title, 1 day faster than Vettel. Only Juan Manuel Fangio with 5, and Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton with 7 stand ahead of him now. So when Sebastian Vettel calls Max Verstappen's improvement scary, what's he really saying? He's acknowledging that the Red Bull throne has a new king. He's accepting that his records are being systematically dismantled. He's positioning himself to remain relevant in a team he once ruled. And perhaps most importantly, he's coming to terms with the reality that his Ferrari gamble cost him the chance to build the kind of legacy Verstappen is building right now. This isn't bitterness. It's something more complex. A mixture of genuine admiration, strategic positioning, and the quiet acceptance that greatness has levels. And Max Verstappen is operating on a level Sebastian Vettel never quite reached. The numbers don't lie. And neither ultimately does Sebastian Vettel.